Well, one ground fault is a problem, but two can be a real issue. Why is that? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at how it plays out. So here we have a non-faulted system. I don't care what kind of inverter it is. I don't care what the GFDI type is. It doesn't really matter in terms of the context of this double fault. During normal operation, we have our strings of modules connected in parallel. Current builds up. We have a lot of current going into the inverter. That returns to the combiner box in this case on the negative. And you can see at that negative bus bar, that return current splits up and returns to each of the strings where it originated from. Remember, those electrons want to get back to their source, and so they split and head home on that negative bus after doing the work in the inverter. So what's going to happen when we get a double fault situation, a positive ground fault and a negative ground fault? The outcome is going to be the same regardless of that inverter type or when those faults happen. So here we've got a positive fault to ground on the positive feeder to the inverter. So you can see that in the upper right there. On the lower left, we have a negative fault to ground on a single string. What's going to happen in this situation? Well, we're going to have our normal path to the inverter. Combiner box is going to build up all the current of those parallel strings, and then we get to that point where that feeder is faulted to ground. What happens? Oh, hey, the current's like, hey, guess what? Don't got to go to the inverter. Don't have to do any work. I've got a way to bypass that and get back to the source without doing anything. It's going to take that fault path on the ground back into the combiner box, and then it is going to use the ground wire to find its way back home. Not really a problem necessarily right now until we get to that fault point. Now the current is going to split, and some of it's going to return to the string where it originated from. Everything else wants to get home. Where's it going to go? It's going to go to that bus bar in the combiner box. Okay, and then it's going to be able to say, hey, we got our path home now. So what's the problem here? Well, a couple of things. That home run is now going to carry the current equivalent to the number of strings in parallel minus one, right? You can see here we split off and we have one string's worth of current returning home. Everything's fine. Here we've got 9 or 13 or 23 or however many strings worth of current flowing on that string home run wire, which is maybe a number 10 wire, right? So we could have 80, 90, 100, 150 amps potentially on that wire. It's not going to last very long. It's going to quickly overheat. The insulation is going to melt off. It's probably going to fault out in other locations. And at the same time, because we have this short circuit and looping fault current, we're also going to have arcing and the potential for ignition at both of the fault locations. We have to keep that in mind. We talk about faults. We can say it's a bolted fault, no resistance. There's usually going to be a little bit. There's going to be some arcing happening. As that arcing happens, things are going to melt. Arcs are going to get wider and wider. They're going to keep jumping. And eventually they might extinguish themselves. But before that happens, they might start a fire. So this is a really big deal. There's been some very high profile fires in the industry. Go ahead and look up the Bakersfield fire if you want to do some more reading. Happened on a Target in Bakersfield, California. Really opened the industry's eyes to the fact that we had some issues with ground fault protection earlier, but also that, hey, if you have two faults, no matter what your inverter is, it can't do anything about it. And you have the potential for two fires. And that can be something that we really need to deal with ASAP, that first fault, because once you have that, you can get that second, which can lead to this kind of scenario. Visit solartechcollective.com for more information on our consulting and training services, and click subscribe for more videos like this one.